Dear patriots and change agents, welcome to the Nigeria Leadership Series Town Hall, a proud subsidiary of the Africa Leadership Group, powered by the Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation. We're so glad to have you here for this weekly virtual town hall, where renowned thought leaders and engaged citizens come together for meaningful discussions that spark ideas, promote responsible leadership, and advance good governance for our beloved nation. Hosted by Pastor Itwai Godalo, President and Founder, this series reflects his vision, which is to promote the emergence of real, ethical, and accountable leaders for good governance, not just in Nigeria, but across the continent. We are a non-religious, non-partisan, non-political organization powered by people just like you, individuals whose vision align with ours to drive sustainable development across Africa. At the Tri-Africa Empowerment Foundation, we believe Nigeria's diversity, our cultures, ethnicities, and tribe is our greatest strength. Through initiatives like the Ito Olajide Godalo Real Mentorship Program, project management courses, and the Civic Awareness and Citizens Engagement Programs, our School of Leadership and Governance offers stellar opportunities in leadership training, capacity building, and social development. Under our Community Development Initiative, projects like Feed a Neighbor, Feed a Nation have reached over 2,000 families facing food insecurity across 6 states. Our recently commissioned Hope Alive Fund is designed to empower and support entrepreneurship in underserved communities. In collaboration with civil society partners, we're building a coalition for participatory governance that works at the grassroots level to strengthen good governance and effective administration at the local government. We invite you to join us on this journey as we lay the bricks one at a time in building a resilient and formidable Africa. Please join us every Thursday at 5 p.m. West African time, live on Zoom. The meeting link is the same: simple, consistent, and open to all. Also, stay connected and inspired all week long and follow us on all our social media as posted here. Mark your calendars, invite a friend, and let's grow together. The Nigeria Leadership Series Town Hall, building leaders, celebrating unity, and shaping Africa's future. See you again next Thursday at 5 p.m. right here on Zoom.
Very, very warm greetings and welcome to today's edition of the African Leadership Group, the Nigerian Leadership Series. And today we have a very, very interesting panel and very, very interesting discussions. And I want to thank all those who worked very hard to pull this together. We're looking at the public hearing on U.S. Congress recommendations on Nigeria. It's a follow-up to our previous discourse on making Nigeria a country of particular concern. And I remember many years ago, well, not so many, a few, one of our speakers today, well, actually both of them, and we were doing a bit of run around here and there with the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern. So it's very, very interesting that 4 or 5 years later, finally the US under President Donald Trump has designated Nigeria a country of particular concern. And a lot of things are happening, both in the background and also a few things that we can see with some military presence in Nigeria here and there, a reputed bombing or sacking of some towns in the north, and so on and so forth. We now want to review this public hearing on the U.S. Congress recommendations on Nigeria, see what the U.S. is doing, see how they're thinking. And we do have here some subject experts, if I dare say so. One of them, of course, is of Nigerian background, and the other is an American in full flesh and blood, who we're going to ask them to tell us what the U.S. is thinking, how they think the U.S. is thinking, what the issues are, and how we can make things happen. Our first guest today is Stephen S. Eneda. He's also a pastor. He promotes the vision of International Committee on Nigeria, ICON, as president and co-founder, and he has over 25 years experience in asset-based community and international development. He has led many innovative programs in Africa, especially in Nigeria, and he holds a graduate degree in global leadership from the Fuller Theological Seminary, and also a certificate in leadership and finance from the Harvard University Graduate School of Design. He's also an alumni of the U.S. State Department on International Leadership Program on Religious Freedom and Social Initiative. He has served as the Chief Executive Officer of Veritas Robin Collaboration Limited, an agribusiness consulting firm in partnership with Galilee International Management Institute, Nahala, Israel, among many others. Our co-discussant, Kyle Abts, is also a director and co-founder of ICON, that's the International Committee on Nigeria. He also has worked for 25 years in relief and community development with various agencies: Food for the Hungry, World Renew, Sports Friendly, and SIN. Serving in Nigeria, he has led various projects that included widows and orphans care, income generating projects, literacy and health. He also coordinated projects for the internally displaced people in various locations across Nigeria. And he has served with Sports Friendly by utilizing sports to develop communities in Nigeria, Niger, Ghana, Senegal, and Burkina Faso. He also served as a consular warden for the U.S. Embassy in Nigeria, as well as various committees in Nigeria, and also was a board member and panel delegate for microfinance relief and development projects, and so on and so forth. It's my pleasure to welcome them both to talk about public hearing on the U.S. Congress recommendations on Nigeria. But before we swing into action, I'd like us to watch a video a video from the background so that we can set our context for today and then go into the discussion. So, Faye, I think we have our video, and if we're ready, shall we let it roll and then we come back to our guest? Faye, please. Back office? Or should I go with my conversations and you play your video later? Okay, thank you.
And if one thinks of Africa as an advanced continent, the whole geopolitical world is going to change. It's going to be turned. And if one thinks of Africa as an advanced continent, the whole geopolitical world is going to change. It's going to be turned upside down. The established powers don't want this. There's no chance, as I said at the end of that lecture, there's no chance they're going to give up without a fight. And now we can see they're quite explicit about it. They're ready to fight for what they have. And of course, what I want to now say is they're coming up with new devices. And we should be aware of what these new devices are. Some of them are very crude, but some are less obvious. You couldn't have had a greater gift to Africa than Marco Rubio, because anyone with any self-respect is going to say, to hell with these people. We are going to take our own destinies in our hands. I think African countries must get together and make China a proposal. You help us raise our living standards. And like what the Europeans did with the Americans, the Europeans hitch their wagon onto the American wagon. Now, Africa can do the same thing, make a commitment to not just China, but the BRICS countries, let's say, and say, we are prepared to go down this road with you, with all our mineral resources and our human resources. But in return, you have to help us to raise our living standards.
Thank you. We heard the gentleman speak, and he was speaking on Africa trying to come on its own and find other ways and other partners, recommending China to be part of our development and to get out of the shadows of the Western world. I don't know if we're going to start with you, Steve, for you to make comments on this public hearing by the U.S. Congress and all these recommendations on Nigeria. We have a summary of the recommendations here, and I can read that later. And it's interesting because we had also written to the Secretary of State, Mr. Rubio, making our own thoughts and recommendations, and we can compare both. And indeed, they're very, very similar. But maybe you want to make a few quick comments on exactly what you think is going on. You need to unmute yourself, Steve. You are still muted.
Hello,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
we can hear you, Steve.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you, Pastor Itwa, and thank you, Sister Jumoke. I've been inundated with many questions about the House Appropriation Committee and House Foreign Relations, House Affairs Foreign Relations Committee of the U.S. Congress about ending the persecution of Christians in Nigeria the way they put it across. Before I make any comment on these, I would like to also thank ALG, African Leadership Group, for what they did last November, because anytime I was in State Department, I usually meet your recommendation signed by Pastor Itwa. And if you look at the recommendations today, it's like I'm supposed to see some kind of attribution to your recommendations because it's like they dubbed it. Actually, it helped informing this recommendation as well. Now, I would like to make this comment first, and to the US advantage and to other nations disadvantage. US is driven by this simple belief of American exceptionalism. So they believe America is unique, distinct, and entitled to play preeminent positive role on the world stage. And there are three areas from my interaction experience and working through the whole of the US Congress, the Senate, and also different administrations from the time of Obama. President Obama, sorry, I try as much as possible to mirror what the US, the United States, try to do when it comes to foreign policy. There are three areas. One is strategic, economic, and military. The reason why this is important is to just give a background because sometimes if we don't understand this concept and the ideal and belief that the United States try to uh, uh, assume when it comes to global politics is very important. Now, strategic in the sense that American you usually ask this question: one, what is a strategic geopolitical strategic implication to the United States interests? And what that means is that Nigeria is strategic to the United States interests on area of reasons. Then economic in the sense that they know Nigeria is blessed with mineral resources, abundant mineral resources. You talk about earth minerals and many other things. So America is interested in Nigeria because of our resources. Military, American now, unfortunately for us, unfortunately in a way, America has a base in Nigeria. It is both negative and positive, and we have caused it. We brought all of these things on ourselves. So, why the United States came to Nigeria this time is actually as a result of many clamoring by different civil society organizations and also by governmental organizations in the United States. Don't forget, we have over 250,000 lawyers and also 5,000 uh, lobbying firms who actually are engaging on behalf of many nations in Washington, D.C. Now it has come to where we have to face the reality that America is interested in Nigeria than before. Now you see that the killings going on in Nigeria, foreign terrorist organizations festering in Nigeria, actually have made it possible for the United States to come to like say, hey, we have to stop this because of their own strategic interests in Nigeria. So going by the recommendation, I think it's good to speak to them. What are the reasons why these recommendations have been brought forward? And don't forget, this week, Congressman Raleigh Moore and Tom Cole were able to submit this to the White House. And as we are talking, it has been in President Trump's desk for action. So I would love to see we discuss the recommendation, but I don't want to just jump the gun, but I just try as much as possible to provide that background, which can really help us to understand why the United States is in Nigeria now with their soldiers and why it is important for Nigeria to be
I think it's frozen.
on the recommendations.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you so much. Can we have your own perspective to that same conversation and the thoughts and what you think Nigeria should be doing and where you think Nigeria should go?
Yeah, thanks, Pastor. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, these are difficult times. I mean, if we're looking at it from the U.S. government, as Stephen mentioned, this joint congressional report was delivered by Representative Cole and Representative Moore, respectively. And they didn't do it blindly. They did this report. Let me backtrack first. The report came under guidance of USCIRF, the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. They're the ones who kind of designate countries of particular concern, special watch list, and those designations are made official by either the president or by the Secretary of State. In this case, it was Rubio who kind of brought it to Trump, and Trump made the announcement that Nigeria will be considered a country of particular concern. So from that point on, the president of the United States is given the task to members of legislation. In this case, it was the House. They were led to compile accurate data, interview people. They visited Nigeria. Several different politicians came to Nigeria, and they did a comprehensive investigation. And that investigation involved hearings, interviews, roundtables, as well as listening to the civil society organizations like ourselves, yourself. So all these things taken into consideration are now presented back to the president, which was done this week, to see what are those sanctions, what are those things that are going to be put in place. And that's where we're at right now. We're waiting to see what Secretary of State Rubio will do, what President Trump will do based on those recommendations. And then from there, we'll have a template to see what Nigeria must respond to. And as Stephen mentioned, Nigeria is not sitting still. They hired a legal group, DCI. I think it's 9 million for a 6 months contract. And this group doesn't play fair. I mean, 10 years ago, they were accused of a hack for hire scheme with Exxon. So this group is going to do everything they can to kind of promote whatever the Nigerian government is saying. So we're fighting two kind of things, the actual truth. But we believe the truth is the killings, the persecution of Christians. And again, we're not saying Muslims. No one's ever said Muslims are not being killed, but it's a different level, and it's non-Fulani Muslims that are being killed. It's if we're looking at the real core, we have the terrorists in Fulani. So we're trying to figure out all these things in the report to say what can the Nigerian government respond to, what do they need to respond to, and what's the timeline on that. So that's kind of where we're at now.
Okay, so it's looking like how far do you think the U.S. is going to go, Kyle? I'm going to bring you back there. How far do you think the U.S. is going to go, or how far are they allowed to go in terms of international law and jurisdiction in trying to handle this case and making sure that things go right, not just in Nigeria but across Africa? Bearing in mind also, and I was telling somebody recently that the threat against Christianity is not limited just to Nigeria. It's almost a worldwide phenomenon here and there. Even in British schools these days, they begin to say you cannot pray, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. So, how far do you think the U.S. is willing to go, or how far can they go in this particular area?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, they need a partner. Nigeria has been a strong democratic partner in West Africa. So they're really hoping that they can invest, whether it's resources or personnel, whether it's military or financial things to see this succeed in Nigeria. Because, a friend of ours, Stephen knows this, Frank Wolf says, if Nigeria falls, the whole country, the continent of Africa will fall. So we need Nigeria to be solid, democratic, and strong. And the U.S., Marco Rubio said this, the State Department's foreign policy is guided by, does it make America safer, does it make it stronger, does it make it prosperous? So, I mean, these are the kind of things that are guiding the State Department, guiding the Trump administration forward. And I mean, I don't think they're going to send troops fully to fight, but they've sent troops already to kind of train and work with. They've sent equipment in. So I think they're in it to see it as Trump wants, a quick response, quick action, and a seizure of killings across the board in Nigeria.
Yeah, if I can speak to that also, Pastor Itua, you asked this question, how far can they go and to what extent? The truth of the matter is the US, when it comes to terrorism, they have the latitude to expand as much as they want based on their interests. The right to protect from the United Nations also gives them that latitude to actually do a lot. And that is why it is consequential for Nigeria government to do what is right. First of all, just stop this killing. either killing against Christians, Muslims, or whoever, and even people of no faith. Stop it. You have given US to come to Nigeria. US is actually, when you talk about African Command, for those who understand how US military works, US is already in Nigeria. And this is strategic. And the reason why they are in Nigeria is because, one, Nigeria is entering into several alliances. Like I've said, American exceptionalism demands that America will want to be in control, which is a lightened self-interest. So I don't blame them, but I blame our own leaders who allow their people to be killed by foreign terrorist organizations. So if that terrorism is not defeated, America will use that as a leeway to be in Nigeria perpetually, and that is not good for our sovereignty. So, in other words, how Nigeria engages is one thing, and how America will try to like, oh, it's enough because American soldier is there, and I tell you, they are there against CCP, that is China. They are against Russia. They are against Turkey and other players. So Nigeria is like another level of where many countries are coming to just partition it, and America is looking at it and no, before that we want to be in control. So it is Nigeria is in a dire situation when it comes to how far US can go on this.
Okay, so what do you think the reaction is going to be from places like China, from places like Turkey, from places like Saudi Arabia, and places like that? Would they be able to have a reaction to what's going on in Nigeria, or do you think they're going to stand off and look on from the side?
I let me
Right?
okay.
Okay, go
Carry
ahead,
on.
Steve. Go
Um,
ahead, Steve.
Go
okay.
ahead, Steve.
The fact remains that everywhere China has been, China doesn't necessarily engage combatively. So China is so wise. China, in other words, wants a situation whereby if there is chaos and there is insecurity in any nation, what China does is to see how they plunder the resources of that nation. So China interest sometimes is not military in any nation. They stand to gain economically. So if you begin to look at what would China do in Nigeria, it's just like the question, what would China do in Venezuela? What would China do in Iran? What would China do in all those countries that they are benefiting from economically? So I don't see China doing anything to help Nigeria militarily because of what they have been doing over the years. And Turkey is actually a sponsor of terrorism. So I don't see what Turkey can do on that. And for Russia, Russia is beleaguered because of the war she has been fighting against Ukraine. So the whole thing boils down, and America just came. I can tell you of a fact that American rushed to make sure they have their outposts in Niger. The reason they just come to make sure they harness more intel, and as much as they are there, other countries are going to play second fiddle role, and it's not going to be China doesn't want to see that they confront America on Nigeria's soil because to them they don't really have any military capability for now.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
would agree with Stephen. I mean, I think Russia is whether or not they have the power, the resources to do it, it's a mindset. Same with China. The communism creeps in different ways, and they've already begun to train people in West Africa on these sort of ideals, this sort of thinking. You know, to say America doesn't promote its own sort of religion, capitalism. You know, there's a fight of these different worldviews that's going to happen, or it is happening, right? Capitalism, which America wants to see Nigeria flourish and prosper, but at the same time, they're fighting against this sort of communist mindset of Russia and China. And China leads. China's for the whole Biden administration, we were chasing, the Secretary of State was chasing China. China showed up in East Africa, then Blinken came, then China came to Nigeria, and then Blinken came later. So it was always a chase. And now I think with the Trump administration, they're trying to same footing, if not ahead of the game on what China is promoting, at least to bring about this sort of freedom of religion, democracy, and sort of capitalist sort of society here in Nigeria. Continue what, or at least bring hope to Nigerians that they have a chance and opportunity.
Right. I want you to just help me look at one or two things very quickly before we begin to take questions and answers from the floor. Some people have said that America is reacting more because it's Christians, that Muslims are also being killed, and so on and so forth. Is this mainly a Christian motivated designation, or is it just a designation against violence, period, and so on and so forth? Do you think America has information also as to the people who are really behind these killings and why they are behind the killings? Because I know that a lot of the Fulani militia, for example, they cannot on their own afford a lot of the armaments and equipments that they have been carrying around. I know also that there's financial benefits and monies being moving here and there for different reasons. So is it possible that we know those who really are the sponsors of all the things going on in Nigeria? Do we have that information? And again, is it largely because it's seemingly a Christian challenge, or is it a challenge against terrorism, period? What are your thoughts, Kyle?
Yeah, again, as I'll repeat, there's two fronts: the terrorism, the Boko Haram, ISWAP, Ansaru, and all those groups. That's an easy designated front. They can be spotted. They can, their mode of operand is easy to identify, and the U.S. has targeted those, has tried to help Nigerian the military to do that. On the other hand, as you mentioned, the Fulani ethnic militia groups, whether it's bandits, whether it's herders, whatever you want to call them, their structure, their strategy is very kind of guerrilla warfare kind of mentality, and they creep in, creep out, and do we know the exact leaders? Is there one? There's several. Is there groups? Is there sections or sects? Yeah, I mean, these are the things that we're trying to help bring along the U.S. government as well as the Nigerian government to say these are the ones that we need to. They're the ones wreaking the most havoc. So how do we get that? If you talk to different statesmen, whether it's governors or whatnot, each governor has the ability to do certain things, and several are, and you can notice that they're bringing up, they're stopping a lot of these attacks, but several other governments aren't. So why is that, and who is behind it, and what's the purpose? Is it political? Is it territorial? Is it religious? These are all the things that incorporate all that. And as Stephen often says, they lack the will to see. We talk about these things, and people don't want to stick their neck out, try to protect their citizens. Instead, they want to protect their own butts. So, Stephen.
Yeah. From that question, Pastor Itwa, I would like to also mention that who are those engaging the United States? Now, there are open sources that United States try to drive her information from, and also they have their asset on ground. So most times it's a combination of different factors that if arrive at saying ending the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. This is one of the narratives. So narratives are shaped by information they receive. Like CODEL, congressional delegation to Nigeria, have their own information that informed framing the issue as Christian persecution. Now, if you look at armed conflict location event data, which is ARC-led, they also have their information. Open Doors have their information, and all of these have framed this conversation to mean Christian persecution. And when I and Kyle and some other people went to actually do a lot of documentation in Nigeria, which brought about silent slaughter, and that also we're able to use eyewitness app from the International Bar Association of the United Kingdom by their permission, and we're able to document also. And in this documentation, you can see consistently how many churches have been destroyed, villages that have been burned, and all of this documentation have actually helped to frame this persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Now, if you look at it from the prison of what even started Boko Haram, Boko Haram wanted Islamic Caliphate to be established. That is another framing. That is an ideology. If you look at the crisis in Zamfara, it can be framed differently. But who are the players and who are the framers? Who are those in charge of public conversation? The question now means that anybody who is in charge of that conversation is going to frame that conversation that will actually inform public opinion that will lead to foreign policy of the United States. Let me just cite this as an example. We came lately, if you look at that recommendation, the recommendation is actually looking at China as adversary. It's looking at Russia as an adversary, US adversary. Now, US, like I've said, is in Nigeria, not because of Nigerians alone. It's there because of our interests. Now, when they see those as an adversary, you begin to look at what is happening in Zamfara. It's as a result, the conflict in Zamfara is cultural and much more than it is religious. Why? Because China is there plundering and stealing resources, earth minerals, and they are actually giving weapons to the natives, to people to fight themselves. So if you look at that framing, what is Nigeria government doing? That is a failure. Nigeria government is complicit. You allow your earth minerals to be stolen by those entities. Then you begin to shift even to the issue of banditry and every other thing. It has their own narrative. In all of these things, Nigeria is broken and fractured. So it is incumbent upon Nigeria government to do what is right. The truth of the matter is that I have many cousins who are Muslims who have been killed. So my own concern and approach to this is that let every form of killing stop. And once that happens, then the issue of Christian persecution, or it is because it is about moral equivalence, people will like come to the fore to begin to explain, yeah, and these people also, this group has been killed. That group has been affected. Yes, those are collateral damages. But if you look at the driving motive in all of these things, it has religious connotation, economic connotation, and much more. Nigeria government, the leadership, they need to come together and say, hey, let's put an end to this monster, Hydra-headed monster. And the truth of the matter is that the conversation on Christian persecution is there. There are killings that has actually taken a lot of moderate Muslims and also even those who have of no faith. Then you look at the recommendation. Let me say this and stop at that. The recommendation is actually going further. And what people don't know, I was in DC for the whole month of January. And then in all the meetings discussing and trying to inform, because civil society organizations have been drawn from different areas, Muslim groups, Christian groups, and civil society organizations. The truth of the matter is that what is going to happen is invocation of Magnitsky Act, and it is only the governor of Kano that people are saying, has been pointed or fingered out, that is part of a terrorism sponsor in Nigeria. It's much more than that. More names, over 30 names have been penciled down, and it's going to affect a lot of politicians. And this is going to be, the effect on Nigeria is going to be huge, but Nigeria government has what it takes to address all of these things, to make sure the framing persecution of Christians or persecution of Muslims or whoever stops by defeating terrorism. Simple.
Thank you so much for that. I'd like us to go a little bit and look at what recommendations we had made some time ago. And I don't know if the back office can share our screen. We had a function, we had a section about 2 months ago where we had a gentleman here also from
Bob
the US,
Destro.
Bob Destro, who we went through this designation as country of concern professional with. And from the platform, we came up with some recommendations which I want to share and which I want you all to also look at. And then we can compare that to some of the the Appropriations Committee's recommendations, and then you both can please speak to it and see what exactly is going on. I know you'd mentioned it earlier on, Stephen, and that you had even seen a copy of the recommendations that we made. We wrote a letter to His Excellency um, uh, uh, Richard Mills Jr., the ambassador, and also to Marco Rubio. And we had said, let's scroll to item number 1, that there should be an establishment of a joint intelligence and security outpost here in Nigeria, and that the U.S. should look at that so that can help us in the direction in which we're going. We then went on item 2 to say we must ensure that the IDPs are returned, and that's really a bit of a concern in that the IDPs seem to now be a never-ending cycle. They're there, the government keeps funding them. Some of the places they've been displaced from are now okay, but they refuse to return them back. I don't know if it's a cost consideration or something, and I don't know if the US will be interested in helping us with that, and I think it's part of their recommendations also. And then we said there should be a joint accountability framework for armed attacks, joint accountability framework for armed attacks, joint US-Nigeria accountability and response mechanism to investigate, to share evidence, to enforce, and to ensure that there's adherence to international human rights. Then number 4, we said there should be sanctioning of sponsors of violence. And I did have a theory that if you followed the money, you would find the sponsors of violence, and they should be identified, they should be named and shamed, and they should be sanctioned, and assets freezed and confiscated where justified. And then also, as an end to this thing, there should be a strengthening of bilateral trade, investment, and economic development in Nigeria. We need more internal inflows of investment into Nigeria, especially with regards to SMEs and so on and so forth. Business councils, US Nigeria Business Council, investments in Nigeria, so that a lot of the people who are currently underemployed or unemployed, who are being used for these attacks, will find other things to do and they'll be empowered. And of course, strengthening civil society engagement and oversight. Very, very important to ensure that there's oversight, there's corporate governance, people are allowed to speak freely and allowed to comment on that. Then from the House recommendations, findings are similar, and they've asked for co-fund donor-supported humanitarian assistance, remove Fulani militias from the farmlands, support and respond to early warning mechanisms, similar to what we said in terms of being able to ensure that we have safe and dignified, joint accountability frameworks, and so on and so forth. Early warning signals and all that. Expand US-Nigeria security cooperation. That's part of what we recommend, and to support the increased accountability. That's also what we said, by requiring proof of progress before obligating additional funds, and so on and so forth. I don't know, Kyle, if you are able to see the recommendations from the House itself, and what do you think of those recommendations, and what next after these recommendations?
Yeah, so these recommendations are to give guidance towards this relationship the U.S. has with Nigeria. Again, for the CPC, the country of particular concern designation, to be removed, these designations, these sort of recommendations have to be accepted and for the most part enacted by the Nigerian government. So it's going to be up to Tinubu and Rabadu to make sure these things are enforced. Some of those are repeal. You've mentioned some of those, resettling and helping those who've been displaced, rebuilding of worship centers, providing economic opportunities. But it goes further. Some of the recommendations are repealing Sharia-based laws, whether it's just removing Sharia out of the 12 states that have it, the criminal codes, the anti-blasphemy laws, those kind of things. But then also just having clear red lines marked. So the U.S. government wants to say if this continues to happen, they cross this, then we will continue to provide. We'll get more further involved. But the recommendations are there. You know, again, our thing is yeah, the terrorism is one thing, but the Fulani ethnic militias, that's a whole different ballgame. And that who do you address that with? Because Fulani don't ascribe to one nation or another. They're nomadic. They're causing problems in Burkina, Mali, Niger. How do we address those? So those are the more difficult ones to bring. Applying sanctions and visa restrictions are easy, but how do you handle a group that's nomadic and militant?
Steve, do you have any comments also?
Yeah, based on these recommendations we have, these are recommendations that Trump will, some are just friendly recommendations that Nigeria, if you do this, we are going to do this with you. But there are still some underlying recommendations that will come with triggering some kind of international instruments that will not be too palatable for Nigeria, because now if there is any external, like the bombing in Sokoto, now imagine there are several bombing going on in Nigeria that will destabilize Nigeria. So, but if you look at this recommendation, there are conditions. There are economic conditions there that if you do this, we are going to do this. So it is incumbent on Nigeria government to try as much as possible to actually do what, if you look at recommendation of co-fund donor-supported humanitarian assistance, last year, US almost $1.1 billion in aid, and they are saying they are going to condition those aid going forward based on Nigeria doing what is right for her people. And also, they are saying that we want to see the early warning mechanism to prevent attack, kidnappings, and all sorts of this evil that is of great concern to every Nigerian. So those are recommendations that Nigeria government can do on her own. But if you begin to look at invocation of Magnitsky Act, and if you begin to also look at if you look at one of the recommendations on national security, Department of State, and other related programs appropriation act, you begin to look at, they have brought in GAO, that is a Government Accountability Office. And this is going to be an office that monitors every money that comes to Nigeria, not just from the United States alone, from any other country. And US has a lot of at Muslim power. They have over many countries, if not all. So what that means is that this is going to affect Nigeria when it comes to foreign direct investment. This is going to affect Nigeria in many, many areas. And in order to stop this, we begin to look at this recommendation. Which one can Nigeria do in the interim? Because Trump is going to invoke. And when Trump invokes, most of these conventions and international instruments is going to hurt badly. So Trump is not predictable. We don't even know what he will do. And he has actually bought into the narrative that Christians are being persecuted, which is true, and it must be defeated, which is correct. But what is remaining of Nigeria government is that, one, the lobbying they are doing in Carl, you remember we were in DCI office and all those stuff like that. They just collect money and then they will just do this program and that program for you, and then it becomes newsworthy, and that is all. But unfortunately, Trump is not somebody that actually listens to lobbying firms. So what we should tell Nigeria government on this recommendation is that there are some few ones they can actually accomplish even within 1 month, and then there will be result. In order to stop US bringing more troops, bringing more plane to Nigeria, which they are doing, and I can tell you, Nigeria government is lying. They are not actually doing it in cooperation with the United States. United States is unilaterally coming to Nigeria. Nigeria Air Force doesn't even know what is happening. So we should actually let Nigeria government know that this is solvable. And all these recommendations are recommendations that will actually impact Nigeria. US is saying terrorism must stop. And if it's not stopping, you hear killing today, tomorrow, killing of this, and it is actually coming to their notices every day. So please, we should just face reality that this is solvable. And then the sponsor of terrorism, they are saying by invocation, I can tell you there are many, like I tell you, there are many names, and they are going to actually invoke Magnitsky Act on those guys. But also, Nigeria is beleaguered. Nigeria is broken. Nigeria doesn't need any foreign intervention or players on her ground now. And then on the issue of Sharia, people are asking, will this cost war? Already, we have been fighting religious war in Nigeria surreptitiously all these years. That is a fact. I can tell you a situation whereby during fasting Ramadan, this is not to undermine Ramadan. Ramadan is a religious obligation for Muslims, but you don't need to attack other faiths who are not keeping that. And then you remember the woman that was killed in Kano. Deborah was on apostasy law, was burned to death in Sokoto. You begin to see the Redeemed Christian Church of God woman. All of these things came together to like say, look, Sharia is antithetical to democracy, and that is true. If Nigeria is a secular state, then the practice of any religious ideology is null and void. That should be it. So if they are talking about that, Nigeria government now should begin to look at it that will you now reduce Sharia to just all those civil matters that actually can, like you have family issues, then you resolve it. But if Sharia impacts other religion, because when they say, oh, Sharia is just for Muslim, it's actually not for Muslim alone with what we have seen. So we should face reality to come to the table and discuss all of these things. If you see what happened in 2000 in Kaduna, Miss World, and a lot of lives were lost, and most Christians and churches were razed and burnt. So all of these things, we cannot shy away from the fact that Nigeria, some state practice Sharia, and that Sharia impact Christians as well. So we have to admit that. We have to conscientiously come together to discuss that. If not, all these recommendations, like I'm saying US is not going to follow through all of these recommendations, but there are three areas US is going to follow through. One, US is going to make sure China is not plundering the earth minerals. America needs it also. And they say we want to do it legitimately. America doesn't want Russia to be there in West Africa. So it's much more than Nigeria. And the truth of the matter, African Command Center is like virtually in Nigeria today. So we just face reality. I'm not interested in US dominating Nigeria. I'm not interested in, big father has come in the person of the United States. No, Nigeria is a sovereign nation, but we have actually surrender our sovereignty because of all of these issues of killing, and that must stop. If it doesn't stop, then you are the one who you have gone to bring a wood invested termite. Why would lizard not come into your house? Thank you, sir.
I like that proverb that you have ended with. I think I'm going to turn it over to Sonny and Jumoke now for the Q&A. So that we can have enough time for Q&A, and we had stop at 6:30 so that we can keep to our desires. Thank you very much, Kyle. Nice to see you again. Long time no see. God will bless you. And Stephen, really, really good to see you also. Thank you so much for all your work, your energy, your effort on this really great and wonderful country called Nigeria. Sonny, Jumoke,
Yeah.
over to both of you.
All right. Thank you very much, Pastor. And Steve, good morning, good evening. I greet you, Kale. What we do now is there are a lot of people on the platform today. My name is Sonia Enibi. I will probably facilitate the Q&A session. There are a lot of people that have already raised up their hands, and as you can see, this topic will generate a lot of interest among Nigerians, obviously, and people will have questions. So, do I have questions of my own? But I would keep my questions for now and allow the people on the platform to ask. What we'll do is we take like 3 questions, and either of you can answer each one of them so that you don't repeat what one person has answered already. And we'll try to keep that to 60 minutes, sorry, 60 seconds, so that we'll have enough time to take enough people, because I can see we have over 10 hands up already, and I know how we ask questions. So without speaking too much, I'll go straight into calling them. I'll call the first 3. iPhone, if you can, type your name so that we can know who you are and we can take you. So I will start with Raf Bello Fadile. iPhone, I can't take you unless you change your name. And then Ade Balogun, and then Ajayi Fumi Tomori. All right. So, Raf, go ahead. I think you have been unmuted. Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening. I'm here at the instance of Stephen Eneda because I said I won't speak about Nigerian again. First and foremost, there is no state religion in Nigeria. The constitution is very clear. There is no state religion. Number 2, our legal system gave us 4 sources of law. One of them is Islamic law, Sharia, the Maliki school of jurisprudence. 50%, over 50% of Nigerians believe in Sharia. So are you saying Mo is telling Nigerians to change their constitution and deny over 50% of their rights of freedom of religion? Pluralism of legal system is enshrined in our constitution. Establishment of Sharia is optional in our constitution. So how will America dictate to Nigeria how to run their country based on their constitution? That's one aspect of it. The legal system allows Nigerians, over 50% of us, to practice our religion. I come from a mixed religion. My parents are Muslim. So what do I do? Deny them their rights under the law, under the practice where the constitution says freedom of religion. There is no state religion in Nigeria. In the northern states.
Thank you. All right.
Well,
I think they
I'm
got
not
your
asking
question.
a question, actually. Like I said,
Okay, you are
I'm
just
here at
making
the
a
instance
comment.
of Eneda, to give information to people who are advising Trump that we have a legal system that allows 4 sources of law in Nigeria: the English law, the common law, the customary law, and Islamic law. The Constitution allows any state that likes, it's optional, to establish a Sharia court. In the northern states, the customary court is normally.
Okay, Mr.
Islamic.
Fadile, I respect your right to speak on, but you see, we are timing
I will
it.
stop. Like I
So
said,
that,
I came here at the
yeah,
instance of Cheddar. I have given you enough
yes,
information. Thank you very much.
all right. Thank you very much for the information you've provided. All right, Ade Balogun, yes, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. My question is to both Kyle and Steve. Now, in lieu of everything happening, the hoopla is really about Christian genocide in Nigeria. That's the origin. We know there are other issues involved, minerals, geopolitics, and what have you. So my question is, with what have been submitted to the president based on the initial visit and all that, now, based on what you both know, is there a likelihood of a 2-state or possibly a 3-state solution in Nigeria going forward, taking into consideration that religion is more like the bastion of whatever is happening right now? Thank you.
All right, thank you for keeping it short. Ajayi Fumi Tomori, go ahead. That'll be the last one we'll take.
My question is to the House. Mr. Eneda has told us the evil of Russia and China and the goodness of America. I'm asking the House, what about the badness of Europe and US? All the monies taken from Nigeria, trillions of dollars, are kept in Europe and in US. I was reading on one platform today will the US, Europe be willing to transfer all those monies back to us for development? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Maybe you can answer, is it three now? You want to take a shot at them, and we'll come back to other people to ask their questions. Stephen or Kel, any one of you can go.
All right. Colonel Fadile, thank you. The truth of the matter is what people are saying, more recommendation is abrogate Sharia. And now the question is that one nation cannot operate different laws that apply to one citizen and not to the other. So if Sharia that is practiced is civil, it's not criminal in intention, and it doesn't affect non-Muslims, then that should be point of discussion. And Mr. Adebalogun asked the question, would this lead to two-state solution? Is yes and no. US is not thinking of any two-state solution, but there are agitation from Biafra, agitation from Odudua, agitation from even Middle Belt and many other people who feel they are marginalized. So now, what with all this, Nigeria being designated and redesignated as a country of particular concern came as a result of many people banging at the door at the Congress, at even Obama, President Obama, President Trump, and Biden. Like, this has to happen, this has to be done. Now they are listening. The truth of the matter is that there is a proposal on the table that Marco Rubio is actually looking at, that there should be international commission of inquiry established on Nigeria, where people will come together, all ethnic nationality will come together and ask the question, can we remain as one nation? Which to me is yes. Because Nigeria fragmentation, I don't really believe in it, because you are reducing the problem to local and state levels. Because we have problems, and our problem is selfishness, greed, and lack of empathy. Now, and that can lead to referendum, and referendum can invariably lead to secession or to what we call dissolution of Nigeria entity. But that is another subject, but that is what I can speak to that. And on the money that is actually the truth of the matter is that President Obasanjo did that sometimes, that all the money stolen, they were repatriating it back to Nigeria. The question now is that we are talking now, our politicians are still stealing money and bringing it to Europe and America. And the truth of the matter is that when government is corrupt, and government, you see, there are many, many layers. So it has to come to also Nigerians who begin to follow the money, the corrupt people, so that the invocation of Magnitsky Act will act. Nigeria money should be brought. Imagine they release that money to Nigeria now. The money will be stolen by our leaders again, and it will be launched back into different accounts, from Switzerland to even to the Caribbeans. That is just the fact. So for me, I don't really think any country will just like decide, oh, we are returning this money, except there is a legal framework that will make that to be possible, and people who will pursue that as well. Kai.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, I think, the conversation I see in the chat is like, is America only interested in the resources, the money, the oil, the minerals, the oil? Not exclusively. There's no way they can just go in, say, give us all the oil and we'll take it. There has to be a mechanism in place in between that. It's like they're doing in Ukraine. They're trying to recoup some of the investment, billions of dollars that they've put into it, by doing arrangements, agreements to say, we will continue to supply this, but then we get a percentage of the revenue of this or that. And those are some of the discussions that will be played, because already the funds from the minerals, as many said, China is just stealing the stuff straight out of the ground, putting on a boat, and no one's getting it. Some are getting paid off, but it's going out anyway. So how do we put implementations in process, government to government? And that's where we're promoting and saying, is that, how is the Nigerian government working with the U.S. government? How is the U.S. government working with the Nigerian government? And we can't do it alone. We're not going to go in there and drop bombs and say we'll fix this ourselves. We need the Nigerian government to come along. Otherwise, people are going to uprise, and trouble is going to happen. And again, with the two-state or three-state solution, you never lead with that. You don't lead with a separation. It'll fail. There's too many too many discussions in play. Having it in your mind, back of your mind, yes, we know that there's been trouble in the Biafra, there's been trouble since, but what can we do after we get the peace settled, after the CPC designation is removed? How do we address that? And as Stephen said, maybe that is a referendum or something that comes later, but don't lead with that, because that'll distract any negotiations and discussions.
All right. Thank you for those responses. iPhone, can we unmute iPhone? Let's know who he is, and maybe you can tell us your name. After that, we'll take Timothy and then Michael. There you go. Timothy, yeah.
Okay, good evening, sir. My name is Ahmad Bala.
Okay. I've been saying you should change your iPhone to
Yes,
your name,
I've
but
tried changing it, but unfortunately, I couldn't find a place
okay,
where
that's
to.
what I thought.
But
So go
I've
ahead.
written my name in the comment section.
Okay.
Well, my
Go ahead.
question, can I go on with the question?
Go ahead, please.
Okay, thank you. My question is, why is it that when a Muslim individual committed a crime, the crime is not centered on that particular individual alone. Rather, the crime is used as a weapon to criminalize the whole religion. As we all know, in this country, in Nigeria, there are Muslim Christians and there are also Christian. There are Fulani Christians and also there are Muslim Fulanis. So why is it that why do we only focus? Why do America only focus on Christian genocide? Why not focus on the whole on both parties?
Okay. Great. Good question. Fantastic. I'm sure they will answer that. Thank you. Timothy. Timothy Nubi, go ahead with your question. Yeah?
Okay. Thank you so much for this program. Thank you, Pastor Ito. In Ezra, in the book of Ezra.
So you have 60 seconds.
Yes, in the book of Ezra. Yes, my time starts now. In the book of Ezra, when the temple was built, the younger one rejoiced that fantastic job, but the elders were crying because they saw the glory, they knew the glory of the past. Well, I have spent about 65 years in this world. And the Nigeria of 40 years ago, Muslim versus Christian, is not what we have today. So, there's a question that someone asked earlier on, that will you stop a group of people from practicing their religion? And the last question we had now. But the question is that in this country, do we have record of Christian killing Muslims? Do we have records, catalog records of Christians killing Muslims? That they've broken one rule of Christianity that called for killing of Muslims.
1 minute.
So let's just, if this is a new development, how can we resolve it? Let's be real. Right. Let's be real. Let's be real. In our practical solution, let's be real. As long as I'm a Muslim in the northern part of the country, and somebody is still asking me to go to work on Friday, and where I be at home on Sunday, there is still imbalance. There is still a fight for another day. This nation should be divided.
All right. Okay, thank you very much. We'll go to Michael now. Michael Igor. So after those three, we'll take another set of three. Okay. Go ahead, Michael. Allow Michael to unmute. Okay. If Michael is not ready,
we've asked him to unmute.
Michael, you can unmute. Okay. Let's take Folashade. Folashade, go on.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Folashade Helen Akibenje. Yeah. My question is this. I know what have been said so far. It's all about the security in Nigeria. But my question is about immigration. I just want to ask, please, because why is that President Trump is stopping everybody from migrating, especially people that have families that have already paid to the extent all they have to do is just to pick up their passport, drop off their passport, and come. They are stopping everybody because of this.
Why is
And
President Trump stopping everybody? Do you have
yes,
another question? Okay.
pretty much that's my question because I have family members who are already ready to be migrated
All
to
right.
United States. And this can
I will
affect
see.
people a lot.
All right. We'll see if Steve and Kale can help you with that question. Thank you
Thank you
very
very
much
much,
for that
sir.
question.
You're
I think
welcome.
we have
Thank
about
you.
3 persons now, or is it 2 so far? Do you
I
want to?
think Tiri,
One.
there is a Timothy, which is like more of a comment, but it's also it needs some response. And then there is a Ahmed Bala, and then there is Madam Folashade who has just spoken on. Yeah.
All right. So go ahead. Let's hear your responses. Thank you.
Um, on the Muslim individual crime being attributed to Muslim crime wholesale, I think it is injustice in that regard. But this is the question is actually the question is what is Nigeria government doing? This is failure of government. The truth of the matter is that whether we like it or not, there are some Christians also who have actually in self-defense killed the aggressors also. Is on record. Now, that is self-defense. We can tag it like that. So the issue of Muslim individual crime being attributed to like the collective Muslim crime is really unconscionable. And I think when justice matters, we should actually address that. But in addressing that, it is just simple. Let this extrajudicial killing, terrorism stop. And then we'll begin to look at individual crimes to be punished. And also, we begin to look at a situation whereby Nigeria is so divided, grossly divided, fault lines here and there. Now, we are unable to reason correctly when a crime is committed. Then you begin to, if a crime is committed, your name is mentioned, you just, oh, that tribe. So that is just vilification of a tribe because an individual from that tribe has committed a crime. So it's not actually reserved for just Muslim committing crime. If a crime is committed, like for somebody is caught abroad and then a name is mentioned, they'll just say, "Oh, that's what they do." That is purer. That is wrong. So I think what we should be saying and doing all of us now is that when a crime is committed, we should isolate that, and it comes to also the problem should be put at the feet of lazy journalism in Nigeria because they don't really go there to investigate. They just stay in their office and then they pound on their keyboard and they begin to reel out news that are no news. So I think that is a failure, and I think it is a tragedy. Also, we have Muslims, Hausa who are Christians, Fulani who are Christians. It's unjust to actually group people and name them. But this is really a tragedy. And then on the issue of immigration, the truth of the matter is this is a policy that Trump is driving, which to me, uh, uh, one has to be patient. One has to be patient with this because, for example, he slammed a lot of immigration restrictions on different countries, and it's as a result of what he met on ground, and he's trying to follow through his campaign promises. I will see that I'm not into this. I'm not an immigration lawyer, but the truth of the matter is people should be patient. This season will pass. And when I say it will pass, I think by June there is going to be some kind of with what I'm seeing, with what I'm hearing, there is going to be some lifting. And then I think Nigeria is going to be part of, if Nigeria government does what is right. Imagine, this is also about conversation. And the truth of the matter is that America is I am not born in America. So, and I don't want to be selfish that, okay, anybody, actually, life is all about where you want to go. I came when nobody is talking about Japa or any of this thing, but that doesn't matter. It is my choice to come. So it is somebody else's choice to leave his village to go to another village or town. So it is people's choice to leave, and there shouldn't be any inhibition if you are not doing it wrongly. So I will, for me, I have a lot on my plate, but on that immigration is also going to be about let Nigeria government also engage US government and leave those sanctions so that Nigerians who want to travel, it is actually simple as that. If Nigeria Foreign Affairs and the government begin to engage and say, okay, please help us lift this, I'm telling you, it's going to be lifted. Ghana did it. So I think Nigeria can do that. That is going to be another level of engagement. It's going to be bilateral. Nigeria versus US. Because for me, I love a situation whereby Nigerians have access to travel to where they want to go.
All right. Okay, thank you. Kel, you want to add to that?
Yeah, just the visa ban is not just something thought up recently. These has gone, Trump in the first administration tried to enact certain things, and it wasn't a Muslim ban. It was specific countries that continually violate. You talk to anyone in the consular section in the embassy and the State Department, there's so much inadequacies of screening and vetting and provision of information that goes forward. People they have a 1 month visa, then they never come back. So those things are kept track of and different things. So there's so many violations, and Nigeria tends to be the worst in those offenders of that. I'm not saying anyone in this conversation is, but there are people who violated that. And how do we fix that? Well, let's stop it and let's get a program. And as Stephen says, there's procedures, there's things they're going to be doing that will hopefully bring about some changes, some more secure ways of doing it. Because ultimately, the visa ban is to protect the country from anyone coming in that can cause instability or insecurity in the U.S. So hopefully we get that figured out, and it may be a couple months, it may be a year, so we don't know. And then the thing about the Muslim killing Christians thing, U.S. has never sided with one religion over the other. It tends to have Christian roots, yes, but we look at China, we help the Uyghurs. Look at Burma, we help the Rohingya. Look at Syria, we help Muslims being persecuted by the government. India, Muslims being killed by Hindus. Nigeria, again, those Boko Haram was killing both, it was said in law, killing both Muslims and Christians. Now, because of the Fulani ethnic militia tends to be more Islamic in their beliefs, they're killing Christians. They're killing non-Fulani Muslims. So again, this is just, facts that we presented, that we see on the ground. Where are those Fulani Christians? I know them. I have friends of them. Those need to stand up and say, yes, this is what's happening. These are the Fulani who are doing this, and we can expose that and work together to solve this.
Excuse me, Pastor Sonny. Let me on this issue of I did from my program criminal justice. I did a lot of research going from prison to prison. I tell you, Nigeria incarcerated in the United States is the least from Africa, and we can use that as a plus. So the truth of the matter, those who have committed, yes, visa overstay is true for many Nigerians, but the truth of the matter, when it comes to crime, Nigeria commit least crime in the United States compared to other African countries. That is from my research, and we can use that positively. But it's the laziness of our government to not engage US with all of these records.
This is a very, very good information, Steve. So you mean in US, because the story we hear is that Nigerians are the highest prisoners all over the world and all of those kind of things.
No. I visited the very where blacks are concentrated. I visited prisons and I did my research. My criminal justice research was done on that, and I'm telling you, from Maryland to the state of Illinois and also to Texas, I conducted a lot of interview in prisons, state and federal. I tell you, and in Florida, I tell you, Nigeria, from the aggregate, Nigeria is the least offender when it comes to the United States compared to other African countries. And with our population, imagine, our population is much more than any other country in Africa, but we are the least again. So that is a plus for us. Yes, other crimes are there, but we seem, and don't forget also, I've discovered why engaging prisoners sometimes, because I was working on recidivism, I tell you that also there are many nationals of other countries who are saying they are Nigerians, whereas they are not also. If you remove that, you are removing it to the barest minimum as well.
Okay. That's very good information. I think the government, I hope they are listening, something they should engage you on to know what they can do. All right, let me go quickly to the rest of the people. Michael, are you ready now? Can you unmute?
Good afternoon.
Okay.
Good evening.
Oh yeah, good evening. Oh yeah, go ahead quickly, sir.
Just since we have 1 minute, I want to thank the moderators and but the two gentlemen that are talking to us today. I've heard a lot of the government should do the right thing, should do the right thing. So my question will be, what is this? Now just say the government should do the right thing. What do they both propose? What are the right things that this government should do, and with respect to the issues that we're discussing today? So because they keep
Yeah.
coming back, the government should do the right thing. If the government would do the right thing, can they just tell us what they
Okay.
think is the right thing the government should do in this
All
regard?
right, fantastic. That's a very good question. So I'm sure they've noted that and they're thinking about what those. Bolu, go ahead. Let's unmute Bolu to ask this question.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, thank you to the organizers and thank you to the two gentlemen. Without doubt, there is Christian genocide in Nigeria. But the discussion so far, especially from Mr. Kyle's perspective, has not taken into consideration the fact that looking at evidence of the actions of the US so far, it seems like a Trojan horse, or I might say a poisoned chalice, considering America's records in other countries, and also the strike, American strike here was in Sokoto. If it was really about Christians, why was it not in the Middle Belt? And then the discussions about the illegality of the China mining activities. I'm part of the mining industry in Nigeria, and I just came back from a global mining conference. And we're talking about beneficiation, adding value. We've moved beyond where a country comes into another country, and says it's part of their benefit for providing security. So those are my questions. And I'd just like to also add that when Mr. Kyle was talking, he was talking about something about ensuring financial responsibility or something like that. The evidence from the US courts show that the president of the US presently has been convicted for, felony. So where does America have the moral justification to do things unilaterally? Those are my questions.
Thank you very much, Auntie Bolu. I'm sure they are more than able to answer those. Let me take one more, right? Oladimeji. Oladimeji, go ahead. Allow him to unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. This is a brief one. I guess if we ever read Kaplan's book and took note of what this more than about 18 years ago, his projection on Nigeria as a field state, all the studies that were done, if we choose to crunch data and mathematize inquiry, what it throws up is that there's a pattern to what is going on in Nigeria. And one of the things about that same pattern that's peculiar is the use of media as a force expander. Now, the question now is, what if we find out that this pattern includes government complicity? Is that a pathway when push comes to shove? If we get back to where we were in 1958, when Professor Anderson had to supervise statesmanship to create a new pathway for the future, is there any possibility that with the civilian involvement in Nigeria being able to get themselves properly organized for what we call nonviolent direct action, is there any pathway for cooperation at that time with the US to forge a more peaceful path towards a better nation? Because if we mathematize what we have in Nigeria, there should be no poverty. So is it possible for us to actually, on a fresh note, looking towards a more prosperous, to have discussions that are lifted beyond this level, this very low level of discourse that is going on right now, between Nigeria and America, where it looks as if we're just reluctant people who have been dragged along to establish something right. So
All right,
question
thank
to
you.
both Stephen and
Your audio wasn't very clear. I don't know if our guest heard you clearly, but I'm sure whatever they took, they will be able to respond to. So I will allow you to respond to these three, and then we'll take the last three, and that will be the end. So we'll not take any more. We'll take Comrade Saidu, Stephen Ipalibo, and iPhone. That will be the last three after your responses to these questions. Go ahead, Steve.
All right. When we are talking about what is the right thing for Nigeria government to do, the right thing for Nigeria government to do is to stop the killing. Is to also, when Nigeria government is inhibited or doesn't have the requisite asset to fight terrorism, they should. There is Europe, there is America, who is on the front burner trying to help. They should work together and make sure this behemoth of a problem called terrorism should be defeated. And then we should begin to see actions. Even when you talk about people paying ransom using Naira, that is an insult on a country like Nigeria. So what should the right thing to do is to stop the killing, except you say Nigeria has failed and it doesn't have any response mechanism when she has been invaded by enemies. Nigeria is violated. Nigeria has been invaded. So the right thing to do is for government not to politicize this, for government to defeat it, and also government deploying millions of dollars, our money, to just a small, if you go to their office, DCI office, Kyle, small office, and they are just pumping such money to that, you are enriching few people at the expense of Nigeria. That is a tragedy. So that on that note, Nigeria is not doing the right thing. Nigeria is supposed to say, oh, here we are going to stop it, we are going to defeat it. That is the right thing to do. And then on the issue of Madam Bolu, the truth of the matter is that Trump, I'm not going to hold brief for Trump, but Trump is the current president of the United States. And then the question of morality, the question of legality, that is not what I think I can respond to. What I'm responding to is that President Trump, without any sentiment, is the president of the United States, and he has a lever of power to do and undo until his tenure expires in the next 3 years. So on that, I want to see. And then you also mentioned that why strike in Sokoto. The truth of the matter is that a lot of people have asked that question. I can tell you of a fact. Sokoto is actually that place. What people don't know, that is actually where terrorism regrouping and training is happening. So because somebody is fighting in Benue, his area of equipment regrouping might not be Benue. So US has that information, and then striking Sokoto is not really isolated. It's actually striking where these people are being regrouped and trained. So that can answer that question. And then when you talk about the issue of trade, earth minerals, etc., America is saying that we are interested. It's a bilateral agreement, foreign direct investment. People are coming to trade, and America is saying legitimately we also want to be partaker, so that they pay for what they are taking. So, and the truth of the matter, in global community, like you are in this mineral stuff. It's about trade-offs. Trade-offs. So whether we like it or not, the global community is about trade-off. You trade this, I trade that, and then the legitimacy is that you don't take advantage of me. Then going to Mr. Oladimeji on non-violent direct action, if I hear you well, there is government complicity, but what you are just proposing is that there must be a dissolution of this current order, which I think is a high ceiling. And then because what you are proposing is that if there is no dissolution of this current order, there won't be reset from what you have just said, which to me, I don't know how that to, because you have to begin to look at regional segmentation of like, okay, do we now begin to relinquish our sovereignty for America, for Europe to begin to now, it will become another neo-colonialism. So for me, I think what you are proposing on this non-violent direct action and then the complicity of government citing the 1950s constitution, then it will lead to dissolution, which invariably will lead to reset, if I get you well, sir.
All right. Carl, you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, so there's lots of things there. The Trump, even though he was convicted as a felon, his unconditional discharge. The Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, doesn't prohibit a convicted felon from holding federal office. I mean, if we want to look at tit for tat, let's look at Nigerian, how many criminals are in the office, maybe whether actually prosecuted or not. I mean, we've got people on both sides that are less than savory human beings. And I'll agree, Trump is not, his record is not perfect as far as his personal life, but, as a presidency, I think he's surrounded himself with decent people. And then the fact of the U.S. military strike in Sokoto, it wasn't done in isolation. It was worked alongside the Nigerian federal government. So the military, in coordination with them, did these strikes. And I think going forward, the federal government of Nigeria must respond and fulfill these 11 main recommendations in collaboration with the U.S. government. So I think that those are the next steps that have to be addressed, not hiring a lobbying firm, sending the president's wife over for a show. That was not a good response.
All right. Thank you for those responses. Let's quickly, please, 1 minute each so that we can end up very quickly. iPhone, I hope it's not the same iPhone that we took before. Have we allowed iPhone to unmute? All right. Comrade Seidu, go on. Allows Comrade Seidu to unmute.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for having me.
1 minute. Thank you.
What I want to say is this. If we really want this situation in Nigeria currently to end, and we have opportunity to present our demand to the US government, I think the best area we can seek for assistance is for the security in collaboration to point out the hot area in Nigeria to the US government in collaboration with Nigeria government so that they can help us to fish out those people terrorizing those states. For instance, look at what is happening in Kwara now. Is Kwara a Christian state? Is a Muslim dominated area? But those people, what they are feeling there is, I don't know how to call it. So please, let's present our demand on security assistance to the US government, how they can assist us in security area instead of pointing blame Christian and Muslim. This will not help us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Stephen, thank you for keeping it short. Stephen Ipalibo.
All right. Thank you, Pastor Sonny. Quickly, I want to ask a question for clarification. Is LNS or ALG a Christian platform? I think we need that clarification for record purposes and reference. Okay. So secondly, the other question I have to say has to do with the fact that I think we need to have more voices from the North. And I know that Bala has made a contribution, and we have friends from the North that I think that they can reach out to the back office and make recommendations of speakers who can come on board to actually help us understand some of what is going on, so that we have balanced views. Of course, from other parts of the country, southwest, southeast, as the case might be. And finally, Eneda and Kai, I mean, you guys always come up with facts as well as statistics. But your reports on the Christian genocide, was there no emotional biases? Were they all based on facts, and were they all based on statistics? Because Muslims too were victims. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. I think that's where we'll end it. I've said we'll not be able to take more questions. Um, the rest, please, we are very sorry because we had to end, at 6:30 Nigerian time. So please put your questions in the chat. We appreciate your being here and your willingness to participate. So I'll allow you guys to respond to those last set of questions.
Yeah, Seidu, Brother Seidu, thank you. On the security matter, if you think America will come to Nigeria without collaborating with what we have, from almost every state in Nigeria is affected. So you are talking about US is saying in that recommendation they want to support Nigeria by partnering with Nigeria because if US begin to go from state to state security wise, that means that is implosion. That is really no longer. That means US has invaded Nigeria, which in a way they have. But the truth of the matter is going to be between Nigeria government, local security agencies, and what Nigeria government should do to solve this problem is to empower local community to have their vigilante. That is one thing, and then they begin to give them training and then give them the necessary ordinance they need to combat all the security challenges in their domain. Even with Nigeria government, even with our security architecture, we don't have what it takes to combat this evil until we begin to see that, you give some kind of quasi autonomy to communities to start their own vigilante to protect their community. I think that is what Nigerian and the US government should work together, share information, and build capacity where it is necessary. And then Mr. Lawson, the report you saw, silent slaughter, is yes, it's emotive, it's laden with emotion, but the truth of the matter is, at that time, it was done some years ago. At that time, there was this renewed attack, and we did Taraba, Kaduna, Benue. Those are the major states that report was focused on. And if you look at it, it's predominantly some state that Christians have sizable population. So if anybody try, the truth of the matter, research, whether we like it or not, is biased. When it is coming from bias in the sense that I have my target audience and I want to actually achieve certain things. So if anybody wants to go also, the feed is very big. You can actually go and do some kind of documentation and research with support of many people here to come out and say, look at what has happened, so that, and before you know, it's going to ask you a question that, are you not emotionally attached to this because your report has come to favor this? It's not about favoritism. It's about people who have been killed. We visited tombs, burial grounds, mass graves, and in our report, if you look at it, we have named and date of birth and all of those people that have been killed and villages that have been sacked. So it wasn't done based on emotion. It was done based on facts on ground. Thank you. Kai.
I think the thing is, yeah, we don't take random info or facts. We need the voices from everywhere, from the north, from the south, from the middle belt, everywhere to be heard and addressed. So again, we've tried many times to hear those voices from Borno, from Sokoto, from Zamfara, but it's few and far between, And again, we're not here to promote a Christian agenda. We're just stating and sharing those information, those facts. Genocide has a specific defined terminology that has to be taken into place, and that's a whole different discussion. That we can prove this or we can or not prove that. So that's what we're, again, no one's denying that Muslims are being killed. No one's denying that. It's just the fact is there's a targeted something going on, a genocide specifically against Christians. So.
All right. Thank you very much. I now hand over to Jumoke to take us through. Thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. Very, very fantastic responses provided. I hope we'll continue to engage. Jumoke, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Eneda. Thank you, Carl, for coming to speak to us today. And I think just for clarification, this session was done in response to the US congressional recommendation on Nigeria. So we are not here to speak on any particular issue. And Mr. Stephen Lawson, I'm particularly surprised at your comment because you are a member of the NLS group and you know that our target is to reach everyone in Nigeria to lend their voice to the issues at hand. So they are here because they are part of the team that worked with the US Congress to have this recommendation. So we wanted to have their thinking on why this recommendation came and to speak to those issues. So please, we are not promoting any agenda over any other agenda. Our principles are Christians, yes, but we are very objective. We believe in one Nigeria. We believe in the unification of Nigeria. We believe in respecting everyone's religion, tribe, and their values as well. So please, let's just be clear on that so that we don't misrepresent us as an organization. I want to thank you both for, I know I can twist your arm anytime, so thank you for answering those questions. And also that the recommendations that Pastor Itua wrote to Marco Rubio was based on a collection. How do we address this issue as Nigerians coming together, not Christian genocide or Muslim genocide, religious issues. And so we can share that that document as well. I think Pastor Itwa read it out during the session, and we are happy to share that information so that there's clarity. I also want to just thank all our youths. I do this every Thursday because they come on board. Those that are in the youth leadership development program for local governance. Thank you for joining us. Very proud of the fact that you join every Thursday. This is also part of your education. And also we have an youth orientation session coming up on this Saturday. We're looking for volunteers to join us in really empowering our youths, educating them, and giving them the skill sets they need to take their rightful place as leaders in the nation. We had over 8,000 register for our youth development program, but we can't have all of them, but we want to keep all of them and keep inspiring and encouraging them to be responsible, ethical, and accountable leaders. Before I hand over to Mr. President, I want to thank both of you for accepting our invitation and for always being responsive to our call. Thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It's tireless, and we really appreciate you. Over to you, sir.
Again, just to thank Stephen and Kyle. It's been very, very insightful. We have learned a lot from your wealth of experience. I do hope that when we call on you again, you will respond accordingly, because we would like to dig a bit more deeper into this situation, and hope that somehow or the other, by God's grace and His mercy, there will truly be peace in Nigeria, peace among all the groups, and that peace should foster a lot of progress, because Nigeria is yearning for progress, yearning for economic development and things like that. And I don't know why we keep attacking ourselves and limiting our own progress, because some people are making some gain or benefit here, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of money being made from almost every side, and that's part of our problem, and politics also being played. But by God's grace, all will be well. We'll be able to get to the bottom of this. We'll get serious as a nation, as Nigeria. We'll think more of the common good rather than personal interests, and we'll find how to make Nigeria truly a great nation. Thank you all very much. God bless you. We'll try and catch up with each other in the by and by. Thank you. God bless you. Have a good night and have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.